Yo, what's going on, y'all? So there's a lot to talk about here. The final combat group stages have been released. So for those that don't know, there's going to be 20 players at final combat, and because of that, a bracket wouldn't really make sense, right? Because in order for there to be an even amount of like matches, there would need to be 16, right? With a 20-player bracket, you would have to have 4 players getting a bye, which you might say like, oh, that's fair. Give a bye to Sonic, Nicolas, Ninja, Scorpion, Proc since they had the most points. But, this is going to be such a big event. Group stages are going to help give us the most amount of matches, the most bang for a buck from the viewer's perspective. And yeah, let's look at them, y'all. So basically, if you're not familiar with how this works, there's 4 groups. Top 2 in each group will advance into the top 8. So once it gets to top 8, that's when the actual bracket will begin. So say, for example, Sonic, Tekkenmaster, Nicolas, Javier, Ninja, Unjust, Prox, and Connie are top 2 in those groups. At the end of it, they will form the top 8. Now, it's going to be like a round robin, so everyone's going to play everyone, and then they're going to take the stats of those matches, and that's going to determine who moves forward. So let's check this out. So I'm not sure how exactly they seeded these, because obviously they went with like points first, right? They have Sonic, Nicolas, Ninja, Scorpion, Prox. Those are the top 4 in points on the global leaderboard. Now, for those that don't know, there's 9 that made it in through points, 10 that made it in through regional qualifiers, and then 1 LCQ winner that will be in the last group. Now, I'm not sure how they seeded the regional winners, because obviously they didn't keep like regional like biases in mind, because the 2 Middle East players, Tekkenmaster and Faisal, are in the same group. So they must have seeded it based off of like regional winners and then what their points are, because if you notice, Brosive is the last seed in the whole event, right? Behind the LCQ winner, or right ahead the LCQ winner, who's the last seed. And Brosive, I believe, has like no pro comp points. He won Liga Latina Norte, I think that's how you pronounce it, and he has no points. So I think that's what they went off of. You have like Faisal or like Zombat, who made it in through regional qualifiers, or Makaran, but they actually have quite a few points. So I think that's how they seeded. They went by the regional leaderboard, they went by the global leaderboard, and then they went by the regional qualifiers, and then they went by who has the most points. And then you have players like, Souls Clue, Wise, Brosif, who made it in through the regional qualifiers, but they didn't have very many points, so they're like the lowest seeds. But then you have players like VGY, Makaran, Zombat. They like had so many points, they were almost just in on the global leaderboard. So they're, and it seems like they're the highest seeds out of those people. And then you have Sonic going from left to right through Killer Shinnok. Those are the 9 who qualified through the global leaderboard. Now let's take a look at these groups. So what jumps off the page right away to me is just how stacked Group A is. You have Sonic, Tekkenmaster, Killer Shinnok, Faisal, and Souls Clue, which is crazy to think that, out of those 5 players, only 2 will make top 8. It's literally impossible for more than 2 of them to make top 8. And yeah, that's an interesting bracket, because you have Sonic, who so far has proven to be the best Mortal Kombat 1 player. I would say Nicolas, right? Because Combo Breaker was the most stacked event. But Sonic at least top 2. I would say Sonic or Nicolas so far. They've taken down the 2 biggest events. Nicolas took down the slightly bigger event, and Sonic just overall the NRS GOAT, stuff like that. And then you have Tekkenmaster, who took down one of the 4 premier events, UFA, probably the least stacked, or maybe the second least stacked of the 4 premieres, but overall has just looked very strong. Hasn't really made it out to much else. Ended up not winning his regional qualifier, though. It actually went to Faisal. That spot wouldn't have went to Faisal anyway, since Tekkenmaster had the points. Basically, if someone who has the points to make it in wins their regional qualifier, it'll go to second. So, for example, Mighty and Just made it in through points. So then it went to second place in his region, which was Zombat. So Faisal would have made it in regardless, but he did end up beating Tekkenmaster anyways in that regional qualifier. So it's going to be interesting to see, because Tekkenmaster, he's been taking time off the game from like traveling and like playing Tekken and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see how he keeps up with players like Sonic, Faisal, Shinnok, and Souls Clue. And then you have Killer Shinnok, who obviously looked very strong at Combo Breaker. He got 7th place, and he didn't solidify his spot through his own gameplay. It actually came down to the result of Mighty and Just versus VGY in top 8. Because if VGY went in and passed, or beat Unjust and passed Shinnok in points, Shinnok would have not gotten the spot, but Mighty Unjust came in clutch for Shinnok there. And then you have Face Sal, who is looking... Face Sal is like my dark horse of this whole thing. I think he has a really good shot of winning. He grinds the game as much, if not more, than anyone. Obviously, there's players on here that put in, like, literally from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed. Face Sal's one of them, though, you know? And he plays all the top tiers. He has pocket picks, you know? He studies the game as good as anyone, you know what I mean? Him and Sonic are similar in that way. Whereas, you know, you have someone like Ninja who is going to go for, like, certain top tiers. You have someone like Nicolas and Scorpion Prox. They're going to go for certain top tiers. Whereas, like, Sonic and Face Out, they study the game just as well as those players. But they could also go for maybe an oddball pick, something like that. Maybe a Shang Tsung, maybe, you know, something you wouldn't expect. So, it's interesting to see those two players in the same group as each other. And then you have Soul's Clue, who actually took down the Oceanic qualifier, beat Waz with that Sindel Cyrax. Now, he's going to be an underdog going into the event, right? Like, Oceanic, clearly the weakest region out of all these, you know. Still, Oceanic is better than it used to be, right? Like, all these regions, it used to be like NRS was so NA dominated that if any international player got in not named Foxy, it was like they were going 0-2, you know what I mean? Or maybe 1-2 at best. But now it's stepped up to where it's like any of these players like are threats, you know what I'm saying? Like in Soul's Clue is the biggest question mark though, because we don't see him often play against other players. Obviously, Waz went to Combo Breaker, didn't do very good. So it's hard to say, but he is a very creative player, like really blew up Sindel Cyrax in a way that we haven't seen before. Now, I know people will say like, oh, he didn't come up with that tech, stuff like that. Yeah, but it's one thing to come up with tech. It's one thing to apply it in like a pro comp level stage, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to see. He's in arguably the nastiest group. So yeah, I would say the nastiest group. Soul's Clue is in the nastiest group right now. And he's going to have to really prove that his stuff will work at a high pro level. And then we got, because only 2 are coming out of this group. 3 of these players are not going to make it. And also this is going down June 14th to 16th. June 14th will actually be the LCQ, and then 15th and 16th will be this. So I assume the 15th will be these groups, and then the 16th will be the top 8. So anyways, going over to Group B, we have Nicolas, the winner of Combo Breaker. You kind of have to give it up to him right now as the best Mortal Kombat 1 player, but the actual best Mortal Kombat 1 player for now will be decided at this event. And then, you know, we have Evo after that. So this is like the best period as a fan of watching Mortal Kombat 1. And he's in the group with Javier, Video Games Yo, Chocolate, and Wise. Now, what's interesting about both Chocolate and Wise is they both kind of lucked out in a way, because, so Chocolate, he got 4th in Liga Latina South. And you might be like, how the hell did he qualify if he got 4th in his regional qualifier? Well, 1st and 2nd were Nicolas and Scorpion Prox. They're already in through points. So then it moved down to 3rd place, which was a player named Shikamaru. Now, Shikamaru, he couldn't get his visa in time, or at all. I'm not sure the situation, something to do with his visa. So Chocolate at 4th place is going to sub in and go. So let's look at these players, though. Oh, and then Wise Gemini, he got 2nd in the NA West regional qualifier, but Hourglass of Rain not able to go. Not sure the reason. And Wise Gemini ended up getting the trip. So anyways, let's look at this group. So we got Nicolas, winner of Combo Breaker, looking very strong. Took down Gambler, took down Unjust, took down Ninjakilla, took down Sonicfox. Looking like the best player in the world right now with that Johnny Chameleon. And I'm sure he's got other top tiers in his bag. And then we're looking at MK Javier, best Scorpion in the world, and it's not even close. He's been playing Peacemaker as of late as well. And yeah, he's just a very great player. Got 3rd at UFA. Got 2nd at the Brazil Pro Comp Premiers. So he hasn't placed outside of top 3 at Premiers yet, which Premiers are obviously the biggest events. He didn't even need to play in his regional qualifier. Now, a lot of players who were qualified through points, they still play in the regional qualifier just because there's a big pop bonus, but he was like on vacation, didn't really feel the need, stuff like that. So he didn't even play in that because he was so secured through that 2nd place at UFA, or 2nd place at Brazil, and 3rd place at UFA, where he actually beat Nicolas at that Brazil event. So yeah, Javier, he's been on a tear. And then we got VGY, who actually won EU West Now, in my opinion, EU West Pro Comp was the second hardest region. I would say the hardest is NA East with like Unjust, Zombat, Ninjakilla, players like that. But I would say the second hardest was actually EU West. That had VGY, Connie Mani, players like that. And VGY took it down. Grand Finals reset over Connie with Omni-Man. And he played Baraka a lot of that event as well. And yeah, he looked good at Combo Breaker. Didn't use the Omni-Man at Combo Breaker, surprisingly, even though that's what earned him this spot. He used mostly Baraka and Shao. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what he uses here. I feel like VGY, a big advantage for him is he plays characters that are like not the most labbed, right? Like Baraka, he kind of fell off a little bit after the last patch. So when VGY came in, I feel like he kind of caught players off guard a little bit. And then Omni-Man and Shao, they're not like top tiers that everyone picks. Not to say the VGY is not a great player, stuff like that, but I feel like there's an element of him catching people off guard. But since these other 4 players have 4 weeks to just grind and prepare for him, it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with players actually coming in with a game plan against him. Will he switch it up? Will his solid fundamentals and neutral carry him through? You know, we'll just have to see and find out. Also, he'll be able to game plan for these players as well, so it kind of goes both ways. And then we have Chocolate. I watched a little bit of footage just so I wouldn't be clueless in this video. And it seems like he's a Johnny player, right? Like, pretty straightforward Johnny player. Might have some other characters. Johnny, very strong, very top tier. Liga Latina South's a very underrated region, so getting 4th in that's not too shabby. You know, losing to Nicolas, Scorpion Prox, you know, nothing to be ashamed of type of deal. And I'm sure he grinds with them all the time. So Chocolate is a interesting player to look out for. And then we have Wise Gemini. Pretty clearly the Havoc of the world right now. There's other good Havocs, of course, but Wise definitely the Havoc of the world. Took down Rewind with Havoc. Was able to take a set off of Hourglass Dexy with his Lu. So yeah, it looks like he'll be coming in with the Lu and the Havoc. And again, with the VGY situation now, I don't think Rewind went into that regional final expecting Havoc. Well, to fight a Havoc at that level, I mean. So, you know, I feel like that kind of gives Wise an edge at times, but these 4 players in this group, they're going to know, like, we've got the Havoc, you know, to prepare for in our group. So they're going to be well studied. So it's going to be interesting to see how Wise approaches this. And all that labbing might be for nothing because he might just come in with that Lu. He's one of the best Lus as well. So another group that's very interesting. Crazy that only 2 of these players make it out of the group. But let's move on to Group C. Now we have Ninja, obviously already one of the GOATs of the scene, even though he hasn't been around that long compared to some of the other names. Actually, to be honest, compared to a lot of these names, he has been around for a while already. But yeah, he's one of those guys who, when he shows up, he shows up. You know what I mean? He's going to be in the running to win the tournament, if not win the tournament whenever he shows up. Won the last Evo in the scene. And he came into this at number 3 on the global leaderboards. He wasn't able to actually take down an event, a big event anyways. He lost the regional finals to Unjust and Zombat. Lost ECT to Sonic. Lost Combo Breaker to Nicolas. So he's always been, like, close, right? And even that set versus Nicolas at Combo Breaker, like, it was very close, right? Like, 2-2. Like, he was up 2-0. And, like, Nicolas had to do some clutch things to come back. So Ninja is, like, I'm sure he's very motivated coming off all these close losses. And, you know, he knows how to take down big events like this. The last final combat there was, he got 2nd place after a Grand Finals reset versus Sonic. So I'm sure Ninja's coming in with a lot of motivation. I'm sure he's coming in with some very refined top tiers. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now we have Unjust as the 2nd player in that group. Unjust has really come on strong during the COVID era of MK11, and now carried on now into MK1. He's been looking great. Took down Coliseum finale when that was super stacked. Took down Champions of the Realm Season 2 finale. And then his results have actually transferred into offline this time. Getting 5th at ECT. Getting 4th at Combo Breaker. Yeah, 4th. Winning a lot of regional events in the Tri-State area, which is arguably the strongest scene. And also winning that online NA East regional qualifier, which was the strongest regional qualifier that had players like Zombat, players like Ninja. And he actually beat both of them. So yeah, Unjust, definitely a dark horse to take down this whole event. And then we have Makaran. Now, Makaran, I don't want to say he's the best Ashura in the world, because we also have, I think his name is Gui Exceptional, I think that's how you say it, in Brazil, who will be going to LCQ. That guy's nasty if y'all have seen him play with Ashura. But Makaran definitely in that discussion. Definitely the top two Ashuras between those two. And Makaran, the one that is in Final Combat already. Gui Exceptional obviously has a good chance at LCQ as well, but Makaran already in through EU East, which, you know, not one of the strongest regions, EU East. You know, out of the two EU regions, West is way stronger, I would say. But Makaran, he dominated that region. He dominated, you know, players like Desarded, Takinada, and stuff like that. And he's always looking good in Rifts Arena. And, yeah, but he's in a tough group. You know, he's got Just, Ninja, and all these other players. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to tackle it with, you know, I assume he's going in with Ashura. That seems like who he's maining. And, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. He's always good with those space control type characters. He was the best Scarlet on MK11 for sure. And, yeah, let's move down. We got Zeus. Now, Zeus is like, he's a very interesting one to look at, because he won Liga Latina North, which was actually a really strong region. It had like Killer Shinnok. There's this one Sindel player. Their name starts with an F. I can't think of the exact pronunciation. But that player who's really good. Gui Exceptional. Gustavo Page. A lot of strong players in that Liga Latina North. And he actually won it, but he won it with pre-patch Raiden. Oh yeah, Conqueror. That's who was in Grand Finals with him, was Conqueror as well. Who's also going to LCQ, I believe. Probably, maybe the best Kenshi right now. But yeah, Zeus took it down with pre-patch Raiden. I tried to look at gameplay of him recently since the patch, and I can't find any, so it's going to be interesting to see what he's doing. Is he still sticking with Raiden after the patch? Is he moving on to something different? Because Raiden arguably has taken the most nerfs in this game, you know, since the recent patches. And yeah, so what he made it into Final Combat with doesn't exist anymore, so it's going to be interesting to see, like, is he going to be in shambles? Has he recovered and figured out a new game plan? Because this is a tough-ass group that he's got to deal with right here. So, you know, he's going to be in the fire right away. You know, his first set could be Mighty Unjust. It could be Ninjakilla. Like, he's going to be in the fire right off the bat. But he looked very strong, even just fundamentally, with pre-patch Raiden. So I'm sure he could, if he put in the work, he could carry that over to a different team. Or even trying to recoup what Raiden still has after the patch. So we're going down to Broseph. Now, Broseph won Liga Latina Norte, which was like Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, stuff like that. He actually won it with Quan Chi. Now, I mostly know Broseph for Smoke. When I run into him on Combat League, he's a very good Smoke. But yeah, he plays Quan Chi as well. And yeah, he took that down with Quan Chi. And there were some strong players in there, like Young Chiquelo and stuff like that. And Yadriel. So he's a good player, very good player. Definitely a... I definitely say his back's up against the wall in this event, I would say. Because, you know, just even looking at, like, character choice, he's got Smoke, Quan Chi. Two characters that, you know, Quan Chi is actually pretty good, but, you know, like, I feel like he's good against, like, certain matchups, stuff like that. But players like Ninja and Just, they'll have, like, top tiers ready that probably fuck over Quan. So, yeah, Broseph might be a little bit up against the wall in this pool. And only two people make it out. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Now, over here in Group D, we have Scorpion Prox. You know, one of the best players. Won Brazil Pro Comp. Premier. That had one of the 4 premiers. Had a lot of great players there. Stuff like that. Beat Javier. Beat his brother. Beat, I think he beat Gambler there. Yeah, he beat Gambler. So, yeah, very strong player. Didn't look so hot at Combo Breaker compared to the other top seeds. But I'm sure that will light a fire under him to come in more prepared for Final Combat. And then we have Connie Mani. Connie Mani has been touted as, like, probably the best EU player over the COVID era of MK11. You know, he won most Rifts Arenas. And he won, like, online first attempts versus Ninjakilla, stuff like that with that Jackie. Now, in this game, Jackie's not in the game. He's just been playing, like, every top tier, basically, like Johnny, pre-patch Raiden. Kenshi, stuff like that. It's gonna be interesting to see what he does. He might be one of the only Kenshis we see in this if he goes Kenshi. And yeah, this is gonna be the ultimate test, right? Because people always say, like, especially from the EU region, they say if Kanimani is like on his game, that he could be the best player in the world. And you know, if that's true, this is gonna be the event where we find out. Now we also have Zombat. Now Zombat, he's always like a wild card to, he never like wins the big majors, right? But he's always like a wild card to make a deep run and upset like the best guys. Like he has multiple tourney wins over Ninja, multiple tourney wins over Sonic. You know, who else can say that? But one thing is, we've never really seen him clash against the Chilean twins. We haven't at all. So that's going to be new. We're going to see him against Scorpion Prox. We're going to see him against Kanimani offline. These are matchups we've never seen, and I'm really excited to see him. You know, he's going to be bringing that Johnny, surely. Probably going to be bringing some other top tiers as well. And I know he's been grinding the game more since he realized he made it into Final Combat through Unjust, making it in through points. So now we got Illuminati as the fourth player in that group. Now Illuminati made it in through Liga Latina Mexico, or just Procom Mexico. I don't know what the official title of that is. Now that's actually a pretty strong scene. They have like Osvaldo Diaz, iScorpion, and there was a Kenshi player. What was his name? Elbow, I think. I forget he has like multiple tags, but yeah, Illuminati came in and took down that whole thing with Kung Lao Goro. He's still playing Kung Lao Goro to this day. Very strong team, you know, plus 12 on block, armored launcher. Can't really go wrong with that. But the thing about Lao is, outside of that armor, he doesn't have too much to work with, so you have to really make that count. And I'm sure like players like Scorpion Prox, Kanimani, and Zombat will be very aware of that. So it's going to be a tough group for him, but you know, we'll see how he does. And then the fourth player in that group, we have the LCQ winner, which I'll say right now, that's going to be one of the strongest players in this whole thing, just because of the momentum that they have of taking down an open bracket with all the great players that didn't make it from the day before. So I'm not sure who all is going to LCQ, so I'm not really going to comment on like speculation of who might win, because we don't really know who's going yet and who's not, stuff like that. But yeah, that's a juice that might. So what do y'all think is the most stacked group? I would say Group A or D. I would say Group A or D, because Group A, we have 4 clearly strong players like Sonic, Tekkenmaster, Jinoc, Faceal, and then we kind of have a wild card from a region that doesn't compete often with the others in Soul's Clue. And then same thing over here. We have Prox, Connie, Zombat, and the LCQ winner. 4 clearly like top pro players. And then we have Illuminati, who clearly is like very good, but he hasn't been really competing with, you know, these other pros, so we don't really know where he's at, kind of like Soul's Clue. So I would say those are the 2 strongest groups, but these 2 groups are great as well. Let me know y'all's predictions on what 2 players are going to make it out of each group to form the top 8. And yeah, let me know what y'all think. And yeah, that's going to be it for the video. I'll keep y'all updated on news about this and stuff like that. Later, y'all.